Hi everyone, my name is Brittany Cohen and this is my week 5 progress report for my venture Robox, and so far I've spoken to 16 customers. So the idea behind Robox is to provide a low-cost robotics learning kit that will teach design, build, and testing concepts of advanced technology to high school students. So one thing to note here is that originally I had focused on STEM learning kits, and I decided to iterate it to robotics learning kits to kind of narrow my focus a little bit. So when examining my customer development report, as I mentioned before, I interviewed a total number of 16 customers, and I really focused in on 3 main hypotheses here. So the first was that there are not many existing low-cost robotics learning options for advanced technology. The second one is that many public and urban high schools do not have access to these advanced technology products. And the third is that there's limited channels to access these resources in low-income environments. So the experiment I really performed here was continuing to interview parents, high school students, teachers, administrators, and even outreach programs and startups such as Loco Robo and Tech Girls about these hypotheses. So as you can see in the results section on the right, there were many different results that agreed, disagreed, and were neutral about these hypotheses I predicted. So to kind of give you an overview of a few of them, for the no low cost options, for instance, there was a outreach teacher who thought that buying $30 products for the whole class really adds up quickly, and sometimes renting them from EDU sites is a better option for them. So that kind of went in hand with there being no low cost options. On the other hand, there were some who disagreed or who were neutral. For instance, there was a startup founder who thought there were not the right kind of options, and there were students who thought that there were lots of websites with different kinds of kits. And then for no access in schools, for instance, there was a startup leader who thought there were not a lot of tech products in schools for minorities and for girls actually. And there was a teacher who thought that a lot of the parts and software, even if you buy them and have access to them, they can't really talk to each other or talk to other pieces of technology that the teacher might have. So that was something important to think about. As far as disagree, there was an outreach teacher who thought that there's lots of web-based options that students have access to. And for the neutral side, there were many who thought that they are only web-based types and that they are kind of limited to the web-based options. And then lastly, as far as limited channels goes, a lot of people actually agreed with the limited channels. For instance, there was an outreach teacher who thought that they're limited to specific product needs, and there was a startup leader who thought that a lot of the tech-based products have very limited resources and not a lot of resources for girls or minorities. And the students even wished that they had more designing options for this. So overall, the feedback from all 3 of these hypotheses I came up with is that there are some low-cost option solutions, such as overseas made kits. There is limited access for specific based web products, and there are channels, but not in these urban areas. So when examining whether I should iterate or pivot, I really found a lot of different iterations I think I should make this week based on my customer feedback. So as I had mentioned before, I really iterated from STEM learning kits to robotics learning kits to kind of narrow my focus down a little bit. But on top of that, this week I really found 3 more iterations that I want to make based on all the customer feedback I've gotten. So the first one is to switch from an EDU tech marketplace to a retail consumer marketplace. And this is because I found that companies such as some of these startups I talked to who are actually in the educational technology field think that it's really too competitive now with overseas cheap marketing and products being made. And it really is not the same as it used to be a few years ago when some of these startups were made. The second is that I found a big need for more channels that allow students creativity. So a lot of the teachers and the outreach programs really mentioned to me that They would really like products that are more open-ended DIY types of kits that allow students that creativity and knowledge. And then lastly, I found a major need for a rental or subscription kit over buying an actual product. Many teachers had mentioned that they do not buy a product, even if it's cheap, because they're paying at least $20 a kit. And if you add that up to, 20, 30 students, that just makes it too expensive in the long run. So they really like the idea of more of a subscription or rental service. So that's something I'm going to think about in the next upcoming weeks. So this is my lean canvas. I'm not going to really go through all of it. I'll just kind of give you an overview of some of the main changes. First of all, a big main change is the name that I'm giving the venture. I switched it from Robobox to Robox because I actually noticed that Robobox is the name of another STEM outreach program. So that's one big change. Another big change is the iteration from focusing on STEM learning to robotics learning. Another one is in my key metrics. I really want to narrow it down to a revenue driving robotics product kit that would focus on a one-time purchase or rent fee. And it could be a subscription based service where customers can either return the product or keep the product after 1 month. And some of the channels that would go through would kind of be a web-based channel, which would be business to consumer. So for my journal, through the readings, videos, and activities, I was really able to learn about how to narrow my focus down on my product goals. For instance, I developed my ability to get inputs from different types of customers. I learned about different channels and distribution networks. I started developing ideas for my minimum viable product, and I focused down my problem solution needs based on my customer feedback. So over the next few weeks, I really hope to develop the business model further and kind of dive deeper into the process. So for some supporting documentation, I really focused in on the week 3 and week 4 activities. So for instance, what constitutes my pass-fail signal? I kind of kept that the same for this week. So is it a good idea, or are there better solutions to the accessibility needs, and are customers willing and able to pay for this? As far as my customers go, my users would be high school students, and the payer of the product would be teachers or parents. The hypotheses around customer acquisitions, there will be a need for marketing as well as face-to-face to sell the product. So I'm thinking about using an online website platform for the product sales. If the customer is part of a company, who would be the decision maker? So in this case, I found that the administrators would be the decision makers, but since I'm not going into that EDU technology space anymore, I'm not really sure if I need to market towards administrators anymore. And then what resonates with the customers, I found 3 top things that resonated with them. I found that low-cost products, accessibility to many types of technology, and potential rental and return plans really resonated with my customers over the last couple weeks. So a few more answers to some of the weekly activities. So for my market type, I'm really going to focus on a business to consumer retail market type that's going to be a web-based product. And some of the unique insights I have into technology is that I actually work as an engineer, so I might be able to identify potential market trends. For the competition, I noticed that there are other companies such as Vex, First, Goldie Blocks, and a few outreach programs that have their own kits. And customers really like these offerings, but they see them as very exclusive or expensive. So that's something I can really narrow in on and focus on. And how do I create end user demand? By creating a robotic kit rental service. This kind of eliminates the high pricing and eliminates the exclusivity from that marketplace. And then how does it differ on web versus other channels? So most of these products are really web-based products that I've seen so far, and the only non-web-based ones are more outreach programs or business to business, such as education technology. So I think for mine, I really need to focus on the business to consumer. So here's a list of my current customers, and as I said before, I've talked to 16 people to date. I've talked to high school students, teachers, school administrators, parents, and now outreach programs and technology startups. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation on Robox.